I've been asked to share today, and I'm so honored to share about chapter 6. So I trust that you guys have read through the chapter. I know I read it again last night, and this is powerful. This is. Let me read this to you. Trust is the glue that holds organizations together. It's the foundation of leadership. Without trust, you have nothing to stand on. So this is the law of solid ground. And I'm telling you what, before this year, I would have, my whole thought about leadership and seeing someone like Penny. I want to talk about Penny Carpenter right now. Some of you saw Penny on stage, and I had the privilege. I've known Penny for years, and she's the first example I want to use as the law of solid ground. Before before Penny, I would have thought that what does it take to be successful? It takes someone with charisma, it takes someone with influence, it takes someone who's a leader with vision, who's driven. But if you leave out one thing, you know what that one thing is? Character. You always got to add character. So as you're looking to add people to your list, who to talk to, character should be number one. It's not left on the back burner, because although Penny didn't have massive success in the industry, what did she always have? Character. And the quote from John Maxwell said, the longer you're with people, the more character they have, right? Then the better things get. So Penny's only going to go from glory to glory because of her character. But it's not just character, it's her competency. Like John Maxwell said, someone called him once and they said, "Hey, will you train us on business ethics?" He said, "I would, but there's no such thing as business ethics." And they said, "Yeah, there's this." And they said, "No, there's only ethics." So what I'm teaching you today is not just, LifeWave ethics. It's not just, having the right heart. For example, sometimes you get in situations and you have the opportunity to be greedy, or to be, to maybe take a shortcut. Guys, it's all going to come up. And so you want to do the right thing. And I always talk about this to my children. One of my favorite verses in scripture is 2 Corinthians 7:10. And it talks about the difference between worldly sorrow and a godly sorrow. Godly sorrow is understanding that when you do things that hurt people or that are not walking with integrity, the first person you're breaking the heart of is God. That's where the solid ground for me is. At first it's your spiritual life, and then it's accountability. But one, it's character. Character makes trust possible, and trust makes leadership possible. Leaders who cut corners or compromise their integrity eventually collapse. And then admit mistakes fast. Don't be afraid to say, "Hey, listen, I dropped the ball here." Sometimes we got to do that, because I want my mouth to be a fountain of life. I'm the leader. I don't need to be, relaying information. "Hey, this person's doing this. He's never going to do this." And so just think about that. I made a mistake. Call them and say, "Hey, listen, I'm going to lead you better. I'm not going to text you when someone texts me something. I'm not going to text you." Next is competence. You can have all the character in the world, right? You can have character, but you've got to be consistent. Listen to this. No leader can break trust and continue to influence people. People will forgive occasional mistakes, but they won't trust someone who is consistently incompetent. So trust grows when what? When leaders deliver results consistently. And this is why sometimes you have to go back in this business where there's a volunteer army. And sometimes people get started in the business, and sometimes leaders drop down and help, right? Sometimes leaders are dropping down. There's been instances where I've had to go to some people and say, "Hey, listen, maybe you want to connect back with this person and just, apologize." Because I know it's a principle. When you can remember, when we humble ourselves, what does the Bible say? When you humble yourselves, then you'll be exalted. If you exalt yourself, then you'll be humbled. Guys, listen, this is a volunteer army. It's like ministry. Sometimes people's feelings get hurt because maybe a leader checks out for a season, right? Maybe they check out for a season, and then maybe their leader is helping their team, and people could think, "Man, where did my leader go? Where's my leader at?" Or where there's no communication, what fills the void? Negativity. So standing on the law of solid ground, maybe you going to your team and saying, hey, listen, I know Danny and Diane is a great leader, and I know that I checked out for a little bit, but will you forgive me? I had this going on, and I should have been there for you. Sometimes those conversations need to happen as well, because we take a step back and we let the system, and we're not involved in our people's lives. That's how you get on solid ground. And listen, this is how you get it at the root. When there's tension, you go to someone and you say, hey, listen, I want us to have a great relationship here. And you just state, hey, listen, that would be my action step for any of you who maybe there's some tension in the organization, whether it's, upline or downline, and maybe you need to go to someone and say, hey, listen, my goal is for us to have a great working relationship. Tell me, is there anything that I can do to serve you? Is there anything that I can do on my end to help you win? Okay. So number 3 is connection, how you relate to people. People will not follow a leader who is only concerned about himself. Trust grows when people know you care more about them than your title or your paycheck. How do leaders lose trust? Whenever you violate trust, you diminish your ability to influence. I love the example that he gave about change in the pocket. You want to think of change in the pocket, and every time you make a good decision, it's adding more change to the pocket. Every time you make a bad decision, every time you said, hey, I'm going to be there, and you didn't follow through. Every time you said, hey, listen, I'm going to do a Zoom for you, or I'm going to be available for a call, and then you weren't available, or hey, I'm going to be at the event. Maybe you said, hey, I'm going to be at the event, and then you don't show up, and your team's like, where's my leader? Or they don't see you. You're not present. You're losing influence. Why leaders lose trust? 4 things. 1, dishonesty. Your words don't match your actions. So I don't say I promise unless, boom, I know I'm going to be I know I'm going to be able to see it through. 1 is inconsistency. You're starting and stopping. This is one of the easiest one is you're starting, like, where are you? And listen, we all have life. We're all, most of us, you have jobs. You're a teacher, you're a realtor, you're, first responder, you have a corporate job. We all have jobs, and we can't let seasons take us out of the game where we don't show up on the call, we don't show up on a huddle or whatever you have. We're not reaching out. We're not bringing on new people. There's just months, just leaps of time, just gaps of time where you're just not present. You cannot build a business with starting and stopping. When you're starting and stopping, it'll never grow. Your team will never see you as a leader. They won't be able to count on you. You gotta be consistent. You gotta be consistent. Next is selfishness. Think about it. There's things that you can do to help others win, and there's selfish things you can do when you have a poverty mindset. That, guys, there's room for everyone to win, and there's so many people here. Next is broken promises, failure to follow through. So trust is built in drops but lost in buckets. So you got to be wise. You got to take time to breathe. This is so important, guys. Okay, some personal self-check questions. I want you to write this down. Am I the same person in private as I am in public? So Mark Batterson has a great quote. He wrote Chase the Lion. But he said, I want to be famous in my own home, not everyone else's home. So that's what helps check me, guys. It's Shayna, it's my children. That's solid ground. I can't be on a call here adding value to you when I'm cursing my wife, not loving my wife, not leading my children with excellence, not having moral excellence in my life. It's got to start there. It's got to start there. That book was called Chase the Lion by Mark Batterson. Mark Batterson has a bunch of great books. Next is, do I admit mistakes quickly? Do I admit mistakes quickly? Next, am I delivering results that others can count on? Listen, part of this is, do you trust yourself? Before others can trust you, you've got to trust yourself. Before you recruit others, you got to recruit yourself. You're the number one recruit. And you've got to have the confidence that I will deliver. That's why these statements, I follow through with what I say. People can count on me. I am a champion. I follow through with my word. So you've got to trust in yourself that I do deliver results. Next is this. Do people feel I care about them, not just what they can do for me? Okay, so trust is the foundation of leadership. Leaders must consistently demonstrate competence, character, and connection. You guys know those leaders who you've seen in your life, just modeled excellence, trust, competence, amazing. Without trust, people will not follow you. Even if the leader has vision or charisma, building trust takes time, but it can be destroyed quickly. Listen, we keep your word. Do what you say you will do. Admit mistakes, lead with integrity, consistency, earn trust daily through action. I love this proverb right here. Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths will be found out. Guys, it's just a matter of time. But this is very simple when you follow through with what you say. You have a heart for personal growth and development, and you have leaders in your life who are open to giving you coaching as well. Awesome, guys. So with that, the law of solid ground, remember, it's the character, it's the connection, and it's the competency.